Horizon Gents, welcome to Sushi Reaction, and this is the United States a country? By the channel RealLifeLore. Yeah, this is the question that in the past I've reacted to a few videos, and this question has arisen. Lots of people say United States is not really a country, it's like EU, it's more of a union. It kind of makes sense, but then again, it does not, because United States claims itself as a country in lots of times, lots of areas where they claim we are a country. They don't say that we are a union. It might have started that way early on, but I don't think nowadays it's a union, it's a country. So I don't know, it's a weird identity crisis, I guess. But yeah, I guess the RealLifeLore will clear things up. I worked with quite a few RealLifeLore videos already. If you haven't seen them, check out the link in the description. It's there somewhere. Check out the cast folder, the playlists like CGP Gray, Salmonella, Interhistorian, Tears will let me know, things like that. And yeah, that's what's this one. And remember, this is RealLifeLore video. You might get blocked, so I would put checker box there. So yeah, we'll see.
This is a video by RealLifeLore, done in a collaboration with Wendover Productions. What is a country? The traditional definition is a state with sovereignty over a geographic area, with a permanent population, defined territory, one government, and the capacity to enter into relations with other sovereign states. So, does the United States perfectly match this description? And perhaps even more importantly, what exactly is the United States? When you say the words United States of America, you sort of assume that the country is in America, but that's not really the case. America means the continents of North and South America, but only 99.5% of the United States of America is actually located here, and 1.
Yeah, I think sometimes RealLifeLore can be a bit, too attentive to detail, too pedantic, I guess. But yeah, 99.5%, it is in Americas, come on. I mean, in that sense, is France in Europe, since lots of its territory is also not in Europe. Same thing with Britain. Lots of countries has overseas territories. What does that have to do with anything?
0.6% of all Americans live outside of America. Most of this non-American yet still American land is located on islands in both the Caribbean and Pacific. In the Pacific, we have Hawaii, which is the only state out of 50 to be located outside of America, and a bunch of other islands that together make up something called U.S. territory. Territories are part of the U.S. and are divided between incorporated and unincorporated territory. But they are all directly governed by Congress, which means that they are essentially ruled by what the 50 states decide, all without any representation for themselves and without the ability to even vote for president. The furthest away of these territories is Guam.
Isn't that something? United States started with, Texas and without representation issue. And now they're doing same with the certain areas.
Which is a little chunk of America 3,633 miles away from the nearest state, Hawaii, and 7,912 miles away from the U.S. Capitol building, where the laws governing the island are decided. There are 160,000 people who live on Guam, and there are 4 other island territories with people on them. The Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. There are 8 other islands scattered around there too, but nobody lives on those, so they're not really that important. The U.S. Constitution only partially applies in all of these territories, which is getting more and more awkward all the time in a place like Puerto Rico, which has a higher population than these 21 actual states. Puerto Rico may very well someday in the future actually become the 51st state, but a place that likely won't anytime soon is this tiny island in the middle of...
I mean, that is the concept that people have proposed, right? For the 51 star flag. Yeah, it says in the bottom. Okay. This is cool. Look at how it looks. You can even see a star type design in the center. It captures your eye. This is a better design flag.
The 51st state, but a place that likely won't anytime soon is this tiny island in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific. This is Palmyra Atoll, home of nobody but the only incorporated territory of the United States, meaning that the U.S. Constitution fully applies here, and anybody born here for whatever reason automatically becomes a U.S. citizen. Weirdly, the person who is...
Of all the people, of all the Trump supporters, let's just say, with their hats, are bitching about how people are just coming here in the country, giving birth to their children and just staying here. We should, build a wall and stop them coming. Do they realize that you can just go to this island and become US citizen too? I mean, does anybody knows that?
given the right to administer this island is the US president, which I'm sure is probably very high on the list of presidential things to be doing. The president also has to worry about some US land that is contested with other countries, like these 2 uninhabited islands covered in bird poop that are claimed by Colombia, or these islands off the coast of Maine that are claimed by both the US and Canada, which strangely means that if you were to give birth on either of them, your child would automatically gain both American and Canadian citizenship.
Or what if both of them say, not you're not Canadian, United States, you're not United States of, you're not part of the USA, then you have no citizenship.
And perhaps most controversially of all, this piece of land in Cuba called Guantanamo Bay. It's actually not a small space. Guantanamo Bay is larger than 5 UN-recognized sovereign states, and is about the same size as the island of Jersey between England and France. Cuba has laid claim to the territory ever since 1959, but the United States has so far decided to keep it instead. Now
I thought it was just a small base where they captured terrorists and I guess tortured them, who the hell knows. But I thought it was just a small base. It's that big? Damn.
That's all of America that isn't actually located in America, but what about the other 99.5% of the country that we've been neglecting so far? Well, that would be the 49 states that make up the rest of the United States along with Hawaii. The states have the power to elect representatives that are sent to Congress, which creates laws for the entire union. The individual states are granted a considerable amount of power on their own by Congress, and they share this power with the federal or the national government. The states and federal government are both allowed to pass their own separate laws, which has caused a huge amount of trouble in the nation's past over which laws are more valid. The Civil War answered the question once and for all though, however. Federal law always wins over state law. The Civil War also decided that states never have the right to...
Yeah, in the past I've said it, that, states are just there to make governing easier. Otherwise, it's the, federal main government is the one that should have real authority. And somebody just called me, having an authoritarian view. But... I mean, I get it. People who were born in the United States would see what I'm saying a bit, less freedomy. But it's not less freedomy. It's less complicated. I mean, you can still, if you want, you could still get a job or some kind of a position in that main federal government and change laws and change any legislations you want to do too. I mean, I get it. It's somewhat free, but there's lots of things that are free. What is next? People are going to say this city should be free from the state too. Now cities can have their own laws. What next? Your house? This is my house. I need some kind of another amendment. They say I can make my own law inside my own house. I mean, there's a limit. I mean, to me, the thing that makes it less complicated is better in the end. So, states can create their own laws that could be completely different than federal laws. In the end, that could create friction. This is just causing friction in the end. There is constantly going to be a heat between a certain state and the main government. That's not good.
To leave the union once they have joined even today, so a state could actually vote to leave the union, but it would not ever be recognized by the federal government.
Exactly.
States also cannot ever declare a federal law to be invalid, but they can kind of get around that by legalizing things that the federal government has declared illegal. The most famous instance of this is marijuana, which continues to be illegal everywhere in the United States on the federal level, but has been fully legalized for all uses in the states of Nevada, Maine, Colorado, Washington, California, Massachusetts, Alaska, and Oregon. Since federal law always wins over state law, the federal government could, in theory, at any time enter any of these states with federal law enforcement and arrest the hundreds of thousands of people participating in legal state laws but illegal federal laws.
See, there's an issue right there. I mean, it's not going to happen now, but let's say in future a president comes that's even more unstable than the previous presidents that came. And, this is really anti-marijuana guy. And he literally goes to this state out of the blue and start to arrest people who runs these legal shops apparently, just because it's against federal law, even though it's legal in state law. In the end, people are going to get screwed. The people who are involved are going to get screwed, not the people who wrote the laws. So, this is what I'm saying. Less complicated is good. States should be there to make governing easier, because one central government cannot run all the states. So states are created to make governing easier. In the end, laws and everything should be from federal level. If you want to change certain law, go to the main federal government and try to change it from there. Why have a separate laws for separate state? It's just weird. I constantly see those videos where people get arrested when they travel from state to state. They have to learn the laws, like, okay, I just changed the state now, what is the different law in this state? That is just weird when I think about it. In my mind, when I travel to a country, I just need to know the country's law, not the state's law. Every state has a different law. It's just weird.
The only reason why they haven't yet is just because they've decided that it isn't worth their time. But if states can ignore federal law or even legalize things that are technically illegal, then what does that say about our definition of a country, particularly the sovereignty part?
Yeah.
Further, how many people in states identify more with their own individual state over the actual country of the United States?
Even this, every state has their own flags. What? Look, man, this is, people are going to be pissed off in the comments, but this is my opinion. I think this is a slippery slope. This is going to create one day a civil war again, because you're giving states a bit, too much power than they should. People are going to say, like, but yeah, it's not a country, it's a union. All states came together, this and this, but not really. United States acts as a country. It's not like European Union. In some area, they are like, okay, we are a union, we are not a country. Every state has their flag, their laws, and after every of that thing, they are like, we are a country. Whenever it's about foreign relation or anything, we are a country. Inside, sometimes, okay, we are just a union. So, this is going to create issues. I'm pretty sure there are people in Texas and I guess some states, they're already trying to secede already. There are movements there to, get away from the United States.
Despite how we just discussed earlier the illegality of secession, the states that continue to have active separatist movements regardless of that are Alaska, Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, New Hampshire, the former Confederate States of America, and most famously, Texas. The only remotely significant ones, however, are Texas, Hawaii, and probably biggest of all, Alaska, where the Alaska Independence Party is currently polling at around 6% of the population, and even got their candidate elected governor of the state back in
6%. Texas only is 0.5%. That's like nothing, but it's still, the idea is still floating there. That's an issue. 6% Alaska. Why does Alaska want to, move away from United States? They should be happy they're United States in the first place. They are not even, close to the United States border. They're closer to Canada than United States.
90. And finally, there is one more significant way that you can challenge the definition of a country in regards to the United States, the defined territory part that we went over in the beginning. This map leaves out the numerous American Indian reservations located within the US, of which there are 326. Many of them are very small, but 12 reservations are actually larger than the state of Rhode Island, and the biggest one, the Navajo Nation Reservation, is about the same size as West Virginia, or Latvia for the Europeans watching this video, and has a population of nearly 200,000 people. Together, these reservations have a population of over 1 million people and take up a space the size of Idaho, or a little larger than Belarus. These reservations are granted something called
what the hell?
Tribal sovereignty, which gives them the rights to govern themselves within the territory of the United States. The federal government recognizes these reservations sort of like independent countries, calling them officially domestic dependent nations. They have jurisdiction over their own land and can pass laws separate or even in violation of both state and federal laws.
Okay, that is an issue. Why do that? I mean, giving them, autonomy in a way makes sense. Acknowledging their separate areas makes sense, but they should have kept them under federal government, like part of the United States. Why do that? They could make completely different laws from federal and state government and it's fine. Which
is why the largest casino in the world is located on one of these reservations in Oklahoma, despite the fact that gambling is illegal in Oklahoma.
Not in Vegas.
On the territory of the reservation, but as soon as you step off back into state territory, it suddenly becomes instantly illegal again. Reservations sometimes even have their own courts, their own police forces, elect their own president, and even lead foreign delegations abroad as representatives not of the United States, but of the reservation. Therefore, you could actually really draw the United States.
That's it. That is it. That solidifies it. These reservations are separate countries. Okay, so you inside the United States there are separate countries too. All these spots. So why is United States whenever it shows its flag, it's completely smooth and doesn't show this kind of gaps in it? If these gaps, makes their own president and sends him abroad representing these reservations.
States to look like this if you take out all of the American Indian reservations, which are extremely independent anyway. But all of the remaining states can have their own unique laws and even disregard some federal laws that are passed by Congress. So the only territory that is 100% governed by the federal government is the city of Washington, D.C., which isn't a part of any state, and the islands that make up the U.S. territories. So that really begs the question again, what exactly is the United States, and is the United States actually a country?
So the European Union is actually a lot like the United States. They are both composed of a bunch of different states. They both have open borders, they each have a common currency, a central government with representatives from the different states. The only big difference is that the United States is a country, and the European Union is made up of countries. So I made a video over at my channel, Wendover Productions, answering the question, is the European Union a country?
No.
Okay, so go ahead and check out Wendover Productions' video next. If you enjoyed this video...
Is European Union a country? No, that's a proper union. Is United States a country? Well, it acts like a country. Everybody thinks it's a country. But at certain levels inside the country, they act as a union. I don't know, it's confusing. I get it. It feels free to you to have your state, govern itself and even make laws and having somewhat of a freedom. But why stop at state? Why not give freedom to cities too, even your home? Like I said before, I feel like this complicates things. This will create issue in the future. This might create a divide in the future. Country could split up just because you gave the notion of, being your own country to these states. Like they act as a country. We can make our own laws. We refuse to do this. They can just say no to a federal government. Come on, really? In the end, federal government's not going to recognize that no, and they could just clamp down in the end. And US military is under federal government. So in the end, obviously, that has the power, not the states. In the end, if federal government gets pissed off and says, screw you, our law, only our law matters. They have the, US military under them. So, yeah. To me, it feels like states should only be there to make easier to govern, just like how London has boroughs. Just like their state should be there just to make easier to govern. In the end, federal government should be the main government, and that doesn't make me authoritarian. This is still democracy. The government is still democratic government. If you have issue with that, you could still go to the federal government and have a position there and try to make changes. So yeah. There you go. Is the United States a country? Half and half, I guess. Half union, half country, who knows. Alright, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cost for the place. Check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.